Hey everybody, this is Brian with Bear Cards 34. Today I'm coming back with a mail day video. Some of these I've had for quite a long time and have been saving them to kind of do a basketball themed mail day. If you're familiar with my channel, you know I'm primarily football, especially Chicago Bears, but I also collect Utah Jazz cards. So today's mail day is a bunch of nice basketball cards and I'm happy to add to my collection. I wanted to start off here with this one. This is John Drew. This is his 1984 star card. Unfortunately, John Drew passed away on, I think it was April 10th, just a few days ago from cancer. But he had been a jazz man back in the 80s for a couple of years. He was actually a great player. He was a two-time NBA All-Star. And he's also one of only 50 retired players who averaged more than 20 points per game for a career. He was a second-round draft pick by the Hawks back in 1974, and he scored 34 points, maybe it was somewhere like 32, 33, 34 points in his NBA debut, and that's the third highest point total in an NBA debut of all time. When he was 21 years old, he became the youngest NBA All-Star up to that point. And unfortunately, as talented as he was, he did struggle with drugs. Beginning in his fourth season, he started to struggle with drug use. He did remain a standout scorer, but that was causing him some troubles. And he actually requested a trade. He felt that, being in Atlanta wasn't a great environment for him at the time. And so he was traded to the Utah Jazz. This was back in 1984. He was traded along with another player and $1 million in cash for the number 3 pick of the draft, and the Jazz had drafted Dominique Wilkins. This is considered one of the most lopsided trades in NBA history. Wilkins went on to a standout Hall of Fame career, and as good as John Drew was, and you can see this here, if you can see those scoring point totals, 21.2 points per game, for his career, just a really talented player, but unfortunately, he only was with the Jazz for 2 years. He continued to struggle with drug abuse, and eventually he became the first player banned from the NBA for substance use. And it was a real shame, too. He talked about this later on, but the Jazz had waived him after a couple of seasons. And in 1986, he checked himself into a rehab clinic to try to get some help, but the NBA considered that a violation of his probation with the NBA, and so that was his third strike. And he talked about how things like that would really discourage other players from seeking help, and I think he had a great point there. He did mention later on in his life that he had been clean and sober. I feel like he was just a really talented player, and he did really well when he played for the Jazz. Unfortunately, he just didn't have a lot of time here in Utah. Now, the reason for that trade with the Jazz was that Dominique Wilkins refused to play here in Utah, which was quite disappointing. It is a smaller market, and for whatever reason, he just didn't want to come here, so the Jazz were looking to try to get something in return, and John Drew was looking for a change of scenery. So there was potential there for him. It just didn't quite work out. But he was a great NBA player, and just sad to hear of his passing. He was only, I think, 60 years old when he passed. But anyway, I could be wrong on his age. Yeah, just a shame to hear of his passing. So I just wanted to make note of that. Okay, and I just checked. I think he was about 67 when he passed, just to clarify. Okay, so all you football fans out there, my first mail day is going to be just a little something for football. I got this on eBay. Thanks for your order. Go Bears. Nice. Yeah. That alone will get this guy a good review. So for those of you who saw my video, my throwback rip recently, I had opened a box of 93 Collector's Edge, and I got quite a few cards, but there were some Bears cards that I was missing, and so I decided to buy the team set This was up for auction, so I put in a bid, and it was a very good deal. So I think it was just $3 maybe. The main reason I did this, I'm happy to get the rest of the player cards for sure, but I really wanted to get the Bears team card. That was the one that I was most looking forward to. All right, this tape is really doing its job. So Darren Lewis, Wendell Davis, got a Will Furr. And so yeah, this team card here was the main reason I picked it. That's kind of cool. You got the old throwback Bears for the coaches, or whoever those guys are. Yeah, coaches. Happy to have that for sure. So that was the main reason I got that. But anyway, one little rip. So now I've got the Chicago team set from Collector's Edge that year. Another quick one I wanted to mention, I'm filming this on Saturday. Today was game 1 of the NBA playoffs for the Utah Jazz, and luckily they beat the Dallas Mavericks. Jazz are the 5 seed, Mavericks the 4 seed. It was in Dallas, but the Jazz really needed to win this game because Luka is out with an injury. So if they had lost, that would have been a pretty disappointing as a Jazz fan. So luckily they did pull it out in the end. It was a close game, good game. But a couple nights ago, during one of the Jazz last games of the season, they honored Carlos Boozer. They had him in town and did a little celebration of him and his career. He went to a couple All-Star games with the Jazz. They went to a Midwest Conference final with he and Darren Williams, Andre Kirilenko. So it was nice to have him back in town. He was a really good player for us, especially offensively, scored a lot of points. And so it was nice to be able to give him recognition the other day. So growing up a Jazz fan, my all-time favorite player is Karl Malone. He and John Stockton are my 2 favorites. But there were some other players. Pistol Pete, he was before my time, and most of his playing time was back in the old days on the New Orleans Jazz before they moved to Utah, though he was on the team in Utah initially when they first moved in for a little bit. But a big fan of his just because he was just such a legend for the Utah Jazz. Karl Malone, of course, second all-time leading scorer of all time until just recently when LeBron took over. One thing that was kind of cool was I was actually at the game when he became the second all-time NBA scorer, and they passed out these certificates to the people in attendance there. And so this is nice for me to have. It's something that I took home and immediately appreciated, and I've had this in a binder with some of my Jazz cards ever since. So really nice to be a part of that. The same was true. I was lucky enough to attend the Jazz game with John Stockton when he broke the NBA record for steals all time. And so this right here kind of shows, Alvin Robertson. He passed Maurice Cheeks to make that. So this was handed out when he broke the all-time NBA steals record. So again, this was a fun one to be a part of, to kind of be able to see that in person. Later on, I can't remember which came first, but this one right here, February 1st of 95. This is when he became the all-time assist leader as well. He still holds both of those records, which is pretty awesome. And then Thurl Bailey was just a big fan favorite of mine. He's still here in the community. He's a part of the Jazz pre- and post-game show, and he's just been a big fixture here in Utah for many, many years. And I'll go ahead and show you guys this too. So this is from a scrapbook I used to make, but that's a picture that I took of Thurl Bailey back when I was a kid. He had gone to the home... I think it was it wasn't the Home Depot, but it was something kind of like that. It was a place like that. And that's Thurl Bailey and I right there, Big T Bailey. So that's Thurl and I when I was a little kid. I met him a couple of times. One time I met him at an airport, and I was so excited to see him, and I was just staring at him, and I think he was, he saw that I was just staring at him, and I think he was assuming I wanted his autograph or something, so he came over and said, "Hi, can I help you?" And I was so nervous that he asked me that I just looked up at him and said, "No, I'm just looking," and he kind of giggled and walked off. So I remember that one really well. But he was a great player for the Jazz. A lot of fun to watch him with Carl and John. And, of course, we had, the late Mark Eaton, who was a big part of those teams as well. So just a big-time Jazz fan. Real excited to, see what the Jazz do this year. Every year they break my heart. They will again this year. My expectations are much lower because, they've really kind of fallen off at the tail end of this season. But they have some great players, so I'm really hoping to see them do pretty well. We've got Rudy Gobert, who's, been a multiple All-Star games, Defensive Player of the Year multiple times as well. And then, obviously we've got Donovan Mitchell. So with Donovan and Rudy and some of those other players, there's the potential there to win some games, but we'll see. A lot of great teams out there right now. I just wanted to note, I showed this once before, but this is my Jerry Sloan 1971 PSA 8. He played for the Bulls. He's just beloved here in Utah. Passed away a couple of years back, but just a great player, great coach. He's in the Hall of Fame for coaching, and love that card. That's one of my favorite Jazz cards, even though it's a Bulls card. Okay, so first up, got this one right here. So this is a Brian Russell. This is a 2018-19 National Treasures Peerless Signature, number to 99. He was a second-round pick by the Jazz back in '93. He had a long career. I think he played 13 or 14 seasons altogether. He was a part of the Jazz back-to-back NBA championship teams that did, they lost to the Bulls. He's kind of known for that Michael Jordan push-off. People have different feelings about that, but they asked Brian Russell about that, and he had said, whether he pushed off or not, he was making that shot. And that's probably true. So anyway, Russell ended up being teammates with Michael Jordan later on, and even challenged him to a game of one-on-one recently for charity, but Michael has not taken him up on that yet, and probably never will. But happy to have that. It's on card, which I always like, so nice little card there for sure. Okay, next up, it's no longer in an envelope, and this made a very brief appearance a little while back. My daughter, when she hijacked my channel and kind of mimicked me, she had grabbed this. I always cut open the envelopes to save a little time, and so she pulled that out and kind of threw it on screen and pretended to be me. But this is a Mehmet Okur 2020-21 Panini Certified Legendary Signatures. He was a 6'11 power forward from Turkey. He was really well known for his three-point shooting. We called him Memo here in Utah, and the Money Man was another nickname for him. He was drafted by the Pistons, but he's best known for his years with the Jazz. He was an All-Star in '07 and was the first Turkish player to do that. And he's come back from time to time, attends some games, and nice to see him still in the community from time to time. So really like that card. That'll be nice for the collection for sure. Okay, next up. All right. So this one. Oh, yeah, okay. There we go. Maybe not. Hold on. Now it should be good. Yep, there we go. All right, this is a number 228 from Star. 1985 Star Adrian Dantley. It's off center top to bottom, but a lot of times these cards they're kind of, they're not as common. These are a little more rare. And I'm trying to get the team sets other than the Stockton because that's just out of my league and always will be. But this is the Adrian Dantley card. He was a great player, Hall of Famer, two-time All-American from Notre Dame, first-round draft pick back in the day by the Buffalo Braves. He also spent a couple years with the Lakers, but he really is best known for his years with the Utah Jazz. While he was with Utah, he was the two-time scoring leader in '81 and '84, and he averaged over 30 points per game every season between 1981 and 1984. He then had an injury and came back to win Comeback Player of the Year. He was traded to the Pistons back in '87, but in 2007, his number 4 was retired by the Utah Jazz, and it's hanging up in the rafters. So anybody who goes to the Vivint Arena to see the Jazz, you'll see Adrian Dantley's number 4 hanging in the rafters. Just a great card to have. I'm really happy to add that to the team set. Another one, that I have of his, this is an on-card auto, Immaculate Collection, numbered out of 99. So that's one of my favorite Jazz cards. I love having that auto. Okay, for these next two, I'm going to do these back-to-back because it's of the same player. Always love getting the graded older cards from Utah. So this one right here, this is a Ron Boone. And it is the 1974 Topps Ron Boone. So this is not the Utah Jazz. This is the Utah Stars from the ABA. So before the Jazz came to town in 79, we had the Utah Stars. And Ron Boone was a big part of those teams. He was a great player. He went to Idaho State University and then went on to play for the Jazz and the Stars. I don't know if anybody else played for both the Stars and the Jazz, but Ron Boone did. And he's actually still here in the community. And these are some promo cards that seem to be pretty hard to find. I'm trying to find a Hot Rod Hundley of this. So these are announcer cards. And there have been Hot Rod Hundley ones. I haven't seen one in a little while. If anybody notices one on eBay, please let me know. I mean, I want to make sure it's definitely in my price range, but I think this was $12. And seems like a lot for an announcer card, but they have seemed to be kind of hard to come by. So definitely happy to have that for the collection. So Ron Boone is still, with the Jazz organization. He's still an announcer. He's still a part of the community. There was a really great documentary on the Utah Stars. I'm going to include a link to it if I can in the description. So if you guys want to check it out, it's just a really, really cool video. And they interviewed Ron Boone. And his mom, he had come out to play for the Utah Stars and the Jazz. And I don't know what point of his career it was, but it was while he was with the Stars. His mom had asked him one time, Ron, when are you going to come home? And he said, Mom, I am home. And that's really been true. He's made a home here in Utah and really embraced by the fans. And I'll show you guys, I believe this is his rookie card right here. I'd love to get this graded sometime, or at least get a graded copy. This is pretty off-centered, but the corners are quite sharp. It looks pretty great. But I have that one, and then I also purchased this announcer card of Ron Boone, numbered to 299, to get his autograph. And I've met him multiple times. When I was a kid, I'm going to see if this will show up. So again, this is going back to the scrapbook. So this right here, this was David Benoit and Tyrone Corbin back in 1992. They went to a town called Sandy, Utah, and I was able to get their autographs. And Ron Boone was there too. So I was able to get autographs from those three. And they were doing a radio show live while they were there. So we didn't really get to stop to take pictures and stuff. They were kind of in the middle of conversations, but that was fun to be able to see those guys. Ron Boone was a great player, though. He started with the Dallas Chaparrals, who became the San Antonio Spurs before going on to Utah. He played for the Lakers for a year, and then back with the Jazz. He was even on the team with Pistol Pete when the team first started out. But he played in 1,041 straight games. That's his whole career total without missing a single game. Only AC Green has more. He also never missed any games in college, and he claims to have never missed any games in high school or pre-high school. So that's pretty impressive. And he's been, a broadcaster for the Jazz now for over 30 years. So he's the third all-time leading scorer in the ABA history, and he's number 6 on assists. And I do have some other Stars cards that are graded as well. A 75 Jim Eakins. A New Orleans Jazz, Aaron James, 75-8. A Stars, Randy Denton, 8. And then one of the great Utah Stars, Willie Wise. So this is his 72 in an 8, and his 74 in a 7. And then I've also got this Ron Boone 73 in a PSA 9. So that'll be nice to have the two of those to go together there. I'd love to get some more Utah Stars cards. Zelmo Beatty is a great one that I've got some raw cards of his, but that'd be a nice one to get slabbed one of these days. And then I also have this Ron Boone card as well, this 75 in a PSA 8. Nice action shot there. And then I'll actually show you one of my favorite, maybe my favorite Ron Boone card is this one right here. This was Magic's rookie season, so that's a checklist card. So it's not considered his rookie, but it's during that season. And it's a nice copy of this card here with John Long as well. This one right here is a really good one. In fact, you can see, he split time with the LA Lakers and Utah in the 79-80 season. But that's a nice little card for me as well. All right, next up, I bought this a long time ago, and here we go. All right, so this right here is a 2020-21 NBA Hoops Elijah Hughes Great Significance rookie auto. He was actually drafted by the Pelicans in the second round, and then his rights were traded to the Jazz. He was with us for a couple years, but he was traded earlier in the season to Portland. He averaged about 2 points a game with the Jazz, didn't get much playing time. His point total doubled with Portland after the trade. He was averaging 4 points a game. But yeah, happy to have that to my collection too. He's not with the Jazz anymore, but I still like to get Jazz cards as long as they're in a Jazz uniform. All right, next up, it's another one I've been holding on to for a while. There you go. All right, this is a Merv Jackson. This is from the 71-72 Topps. He's from Georgia. He was a guard, but this is a double PC card for me. So he played at the University of Utah in college, and he was a two-time all-WAC player there. And then he went on to the Utah Stars. He actually won an ABA championship with the Stars back in 1971. So all the players who were a part of that championship team were really loved here in Utah. In the documentary I watched, they talk about how, the team was so close to the fans. Players were actually invited to dinners at people's homes and things like that. He was an ABA All-Star back in '69. Unfortunately, he passed away about a decade ago, but a really good player for the Stars for a while there. So happy to have that one to my collection as well. Next up, second to last one. All right, we've got this. Let's see, there we go. This is a PSA 8 1975 Al Smith for the Utah Stars. He had a 5-year ABA career as a point guard. He played for the Denver Rockets and the Utah Stars. And in 1974, he led the ABA in assists. His second year with the Stars, there were only 15 games played before the Utah Stars folded. And they actually talk about that in the documentary if you guys want to check it out. But really happy to have that card. Another good one with my Stars collection to be able to add to the slabbed cards there. So nice one for me there. Love the ball that they used back there in the ABA. Okay, and last up, I've got this one, another PSA card. This is the 1975 Topps Utah Stars Team Leader card, PSA 8. You got Ron Boone on here, but the big one is Moses Malone. That was during his rookie season. Led the Stars in rebounds. And so I'm really happy to have that card. So this PSA 8 will now go in really well with one of my all-time favorite trading cards that I own, which is the 1975 Moses Malone rookie card. This is really nice for me to have that for the collection as well. And you can even see Al Smith, who I just mentioned as well right there. So Moses Malone, he was a great Hall of Fame center. Those of you who know the NBA from back in the day will definitely recognize him. He played for many, many years. I think he retired in 1995. During his career, though, he was drafted straight out of high school by the Utah Stars, which just didn't happen back then. And he immediately was a success. He was an ABA All-Star as a rookie. He played 2 years in the ABA, so the first year with the Stars, and his second year started with the Stars until the team folded. But then he, after those first 2 years, he went on to the NBA and won an NBA championship with the 76ers. He was the Finals MVP, 3-time NBA MVP, 12-time All-Star, and plus he had the one ABA All-Star as well. He led the league in rebounds 6 times. He's a part of the 50th and 75th All-Anniversary team. Just a great player, and really happy to have that added to the collection there. So anyway, these are my cards. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I know it's not the typical football, although we did have the little Bears team set in there, so there's a little bit of football. But I love the Utah Jazz, the Utah Stars, the history of of the teams here in Utah are always fun for me. But I hope you guys, got a little kick out of that as well. I'll be back with more videos in the near future. For those of you who are wanting football, don't worry, that's what it will be. But appreciate you guys sticking around and watching this. And as always, go Bears.